This is the hierarchy of attraction and how your face rating affects your chances.
In this video, I'm going to be discussing the hierarchy of attraction, which will help you understand what the modern dating...
I love wheat waffle. I agree. In fact, I would attribute my desire to actually lose weight and no longer be obese to wheat waffles content. Unironically, wheat waffles changed my life, which is why I'm so disappointed that this guy got harassed one time IRL and just now doesn't want to show his face. Like, come on, man, you should be a bit more proud.
market looks like, and give you a rough idea of who you may likely end up with. I'll be making it real simple with a series of arrows, showing who goes with who based on their percentile of attractiveness or market value.
How many of you guys in chat have been with a girl that is in the 2 to 3 bracket? That girl with the curly hair at the bottom. How many of you have gone down to this? I know it may seem like cap, right? But I haven't gone that low. I've gone to the points above her, though.
Most attractive people at the top, least attractive at the bottom.
Never.
And as an end result, we'll end up with something.
Well, either you guys are capping or you guys are, respectable and honorable men. So, one of the two.
Looking like this, where successful couples pair off either within or outside of their league, and others are left out because either nobody chose them or some other reason, like they wanted to stay single. I
think the healthiest way to do this is to date someone that is no more than a 1 above you or below you. So if you're a 5, you can date up to a 6 or down to a 4. And I think that's the honorable, equitable way to do things, right? Of course, that doesn't mean anything. Like, people are going to trying to get whatever they want and delude themselves into thinking, oh, the 8 out of 10 woman from Philippines likes me despite me being a 50-year-old man that's fat and bald. It's just a coincidence that I support her with money. There's going to be all that bullshit, but I think in reality, for like a real long-lasting, genuine relationship, you got to date around your looks level. I think that's equitable.
Using data throughout this presentation to produce the most accurate image possible. Now, showing this, you might have noticed it looks similar to some of the satire that exists across various Instagram or Facebook pages. And while this shows a rough idea of what we're dealing with, for example, it's supported by data that 80% of Tinder likes go to the top 20% of men, which highlights most women are chasing the same group of attractive, tall, in-shape guys. Recognize is nowadays a lot of women have simply opted out of the dating market. As I've said before in previous videos.
Do you think Ozempic is worth for looksmaxxing?
100%. I think it's going to make your cuts a lot easier. It's kind of going to remove the willpower component to it to a degree. It's going to blunt your ghrelin, your hunger signaling. So you are going to have an easier time cutting. Don't fall into like this propaganda of like a Ozempic face. It's like, no, these are like 60-year-old celebrities that have terrible skin collagen, and it just got hidden by the fat they had.
Just because a woman is single
thank you for the donut.
Doesn't mean she doesn't want to be single. It's a matter of fact, what's become very pervasive across the Western world, especially in the 18 to 25 age demographic, which most of you watching this video will fall into, is if a woman is single, oftentimes it's just because she wants it to be that way. She's got university, travel, friends, life experiences to worry about, which frequently comes before putting effort into dating and finding the relationship she wants.
How many times have you been on a date with a girl and she's like mid-20s, and the prospect of like getting married and having kids to her is like this far off thing? Like, it's like, wow, this is a really early time to be worrying about that. Like, if you bring it up, it's like this strange thing that like you would even suggest it this early on, even though she's mid-20s. I've encountered that quite a lot.
Therefore, we'd anticipate many of these arrows to not even exist, and they are in essence removed.
I look like the 4 guy, brutal. Yeah, I think he's average. Mr. 4, yeah.
The dating pool. So, accounting for wider dating participation among men and less among women. This key distinction drastically changes the dynamics and how the finished picture will look of who pairs up with who. Again, this is supported by statistics.
Men also have such a stronger libido than women. Our sex drive is just a lot stronger. It just is that way, right? So that's always gonna skew things to women's favor, just because of how horny men can get.
When you look at dating app participation by gender, men vastly outnumber women on these platforms. Of the 5 biggest dating apps, with the
I think I made a YouTube short about this, but the dating app economy in India makes this look like it's easy mode. It's something like 93% of users on dating apps in India are men. 93%. So 7% of the total user base are women instead of the 35.8%.
How important are friends for dating? Social status.
Social status. Yeah, I think it's something. Um I think if you're like doing this is only relevant if you're pursuing like a long-term thing. Short-term is totally irrelevant. You don't need any social proof from other men, but I think long-term dating, I think that's a bit of a factor, but realistically, you probably know what I'm gonna say, and that looks up the real deciding thing.
highest usage across the board. Men consistently outnumber women anywhere from 2 to 1, sometimes near 3 to 1. And if we assume that creating a dating profile is the smallest step one can make regarding putting themselves out there and on the market, it highlights there's on average a far greater willingness from men to meet and be open to relationships than women of the
Yeah,
same age.
just because of the numbers. We're not even factoring in that men just are more horny than women. Even just numerically, things are stacked against men.
Which is interesting because mainstream narratives will often say it's women who want relationships, whereas men don't really care and are just happy to do their own thing or sit at home playing video games. However, when you look at dating apps, even for those like Bumble, which prides itself as a relationship oriented platform, facilitating those looking for life partners.
Yeah, I think the desire of men to settle down, sow their oats and have kids, like has really been disrespected. Men have a biological clock as well. It just doesn't really get like spoken about, but men definitely a lot of young men like in normal circumstances they want a stable relationship usually.
Not short term fun. Even here, the ratio is heavily skewed in women's favour, with nearly 3 times as many men as there are women. So, what this means, getting back to the model hierarchy, we can change the colour of a significant portion of the female dating pool and assign them a label of wanting to stay single. This means
Okay.
they are non-participants and are ousted from the dataset. And as discussed, this is almost an exclusive desire among women. Nearly all men want to put themselves out there, they're trying to talk to girls, they're on the apps, but often getting no interest back. Assuming an
Yeah.
even distribution up and down the scale with about 40% of the women abstaining, it leaves us with an effective dating ratio of nearly 2 men competing for every woman, which is similar to what we had with the previous
In India, it's 9 men to every woman.
statistics from dating app ratios. Furthermore, other evidence supports this idea of young women abstaining from dating.
Ideal weight or BMI as a 5'8"? Should I quit gym to look more athletic? Quite bulky but not high body fat at 82 kilograms. Or just go to 10% fur with Ozempic?
Maybe not 10%, but like you could get near there, like 11, 12%. And I think that's ideal. I think that's ideal in a lot of cases. Um, I think you're Gucci at that point. But I'm not sure how BMI affects you being 5'8". BMI is relative to your height, right? So
When looking at the trends seen in Western developed nations. Did you know the more affluent a nation
thank you for
becomes,
the
the
donut.
lower marriage rates and delayed marriages are? This is clear when comparing the average age of marriage and years of schooling in European countries. There is this obvious difference where in Western and Northern European nations, as young women are expected to get higher education,
Yeah, I've heard some people explain this in the sense that if you are in an affluent environment and there's like an abundance of resources, i.e., like Western Europe, or even like North America, then you're not going to have the like the biological drive to like have kids early on. I think that there's something to that. Thank you for the $2, Lass. Thank you.
bachelor's or master's degrees. The average age of marriage is higher, well into their 30s most of the time. Whereas in Eastern European countries, as it's common for people to get a job as soon as they finish secondary school,
Yeah, I've heard it's like an epigenetic thing. Like the more like stress you grow up with, the more you have like a biological drive to have kids earlier. Which kind of makes sense, right? Like if you're in a time of war, you better have kids pretty quick, right? You better reproduce because there's no real guarantee that you're going to survive for much longer. So it makes sense, like from a
Him
evolutionary
facially a
biology
6 rated
perspective.
by Wheat Waffles, top 30%, height 5'8". And dating is already tough. I can't even imagine how others cope with it. Life's brutal.
If you got rated 6 by Wheat Waffles, I'm not sure how accurate a rater he is. Um, I think he puts himself as a 6 too. Um, so yeah, I would disagree with that. I would say Wheat is probably a 5, but whatever.
they typically get married in their mid to late 20s, which often means they'd have started these relationships in their early 20s. And it's all because the rates of female education and career opportunities are higher in the West, which often comes at the expense of a woman's desire for marriage and relationships. Furthermore, even with individual countries such as the US, there is a clear trend where the higher educational attainment, the more marriage gets delayed. And what's
That's so fucked. That's so. See, I don't think that's natural. I think there's like a bit of like ideological imprinting there, right? Because I don't think like just being educated, just in like the vague sense, is going to make you want to delay getting married and having kids. I think it's more like the ideological thing. Like there's definitely like an anti-natalist streak that's in higher education, or like the cathedral, right? Like media, education, government. There's definitely like a anti-natalist slant to it. So I think that is probably the reason. I don't think just learning more and becoming more educated just in the vague sense is going to make you want to delay having kids.
interesting is the gap between each curve lines up almost perfectly with when their respective course finishes. People usually finish
Very true. In stressful events, you mature, age faster than others in less stressed zones. Yeah, I think there's been like studies on this where if you are in a if you have like a stressful like home life, you will hit puberty earlier. Like people hit puberty like many years earlier if they have like a stressful environment in their childhood, and the people that have like a peaceful slash serene um, childhood, they tend to go through puberty a few years later. I wish I had the numbers on hand, but like it's quite substantial. It's quite a big deal.
high school at 18.
It's so amazing, the human body. Like there's all of these like fail-safe mechanisms that are designed into us for us to just reproduce, right, at all costs. Like all of these like little switches that goes on depending on like our environment and how we're brought up. It's so incredible.
What's harder? Being unattractive as woman or man?
I mean, you already know the answer to that. It's of course more. It's harder being a man that's unattractive. You have to be so low down on the look scale before you reach parity with the SMV of an unattractive man.
Which is where marriage for this group starts booming. 4 years later, as people finish bachelor's degrees, it's where marriage for this group starts booming. And a few years later, for those who finish advanced degrees or PhDs, surprise, surprise, is where marriage for this group starts booming. So basically, we can make a logical assumption that when a woman is in education, the chance she is looking for a serious relationship or marriage is lower, way lower. She just
Yeah.
wants to stay.
I mean, when I've been on dates with girls, very often I hear I will only have kids after I finish my or after I finish my college and get a degree. Like I've heard that sentence so many times.
Single. Which, bringing back to the chart, when we focus on the 18 to 25 age group, it is accurate to show there's this large portion of the female dating pool who are ousted from the dataset. Next, what this means for the remaining individuals, those who want relationships or marriage, over time people will start pairing off if and when they come in contact with the right person. How do these pairings occur? Well, we know most relationships nowadays form online from dating apps.
Hmm.
Over 50% and an increasing number. Long gone are the days where you met your future wife at church, where your family set you up.
So many people don't know this or don't appreciate this, but like this is huge. This is like this is such a monumental shift in how society works. It's not a trivial thing at all. The
What
rise
do
of
you
dating
suggest a
apps.
5'8" but attractive face? Geomax to Asia or South America?
Depends on what type of girl you like. Do you like Asian girls or Latinas? Well, if you like Latinas, go to South America, of course. But the downside there is there's a there's some real intense crime in South American countries, which might not be the case in Asian countries. So if you're neutral and that's the deciding factor, then that's the deciding factor.
So, given this, it shouldn't be a surprise the most attractive and desirable guys will be the first to go. These are the first picks. Everyone knows how
Thank you
these
for
apps
becoming a
are
channel
skewed
member,
heavily in handsome guys' favour,
Dr. Harsh
often
Truth.
with a rich get richer design as the algorithms boost these men's profiles by showing them first and giving them the most exposure. We also live in a women's shoes society.
Yeah, there's also ELO. So depending on your swipe right percentage that you get assigned to a different bracket of attractiveness. Like I remember Marlon showed his Tinder on stream. I saw some clip, right? And like all of like the cards that he could swipe left and right on Tinder were like these 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10 women. There's no way you're going to have that kind of selection of cards if you're just a regular guy. So the ELO thing is definitely a thing. I think the algorithm really does sort you out depending on your attractiveness. They try and sort you out.
Now that all meet online, what to do as normie?
Uh, I think looks max. I think looks max, and give dating apps a go. Try and get to like at least like a 6, and then you're like in at least you're in the game at that point. 7 is when things start getting good for a male user on a dating app, but I think looks maxing is the way because even if you don't use a dating app, you're still under the influence of dating apps, right? Like every girl you meet IRL can easily just go on Tinder and swipe and find a relatively good looking guy. So like you always have to consider that.
And when women have the option to choose which guys they want, it's obvious they go for the most attractive guys, not the
If you have
unattractive,
blue eyes and are
undesirable
white,
ones.
is it easy?
With girls that like that phenotype, at least in my experience when I'm like dating Asian girls and like that's their phenotype, they really like it, right? So it definitely puts you in a niche where you really can uh, capitalize off it, for lack of a better term. So I think it's a really good niche to have. It's always going to put you in good stead, especially if it's rare wherever you live.
Which again is supported by the data that 80% of matches go to 20% of the men. Furthermore, given the men at the top have this much power, They get to have a say in who they want. In a position of abundance, the most attractive guys can become somewhat choosy, and they want to make sure they get the best deal possible. So the majority of the time, they'll be pairing with the most beautiful women available. If you want to know who is getting relationships with the most attractive, most desirable women out,
I mean, I hate to turn on the brotherhood, but I think she mugs him. I think she's a bit above this guy.
there, it's the handsome, 6 foot plus, in shape guy.
I wouldn't rate him that handsome, Wheat. I kind of disagree. I think he's normie, to be honest. I would put him as a 5.
Is with the freedom to reject girls they don't deem on their level. The top 20%ers are choosers, the bottom 80%ers beggars. Next,
Brutal
after
eyebrow
this, in line
distance.
to be
Yeah, that gap. You know what he could do to ascend? He could do microblading, and it's like a semi-permanent tattoo. Just have it in her hair, and that would really improve his facial harmony.
the bottom 80%ers beggars. Next, after this, in line to be selected are the 30 and 40%ers. These are the guys with okay enough looks, so they still get a handful of matches and occasional dates here and there. However, due to the best option,
I put myself in that category. I can definitely get dates on dating apps for sure, but I don't have the selection of Chad. You know, I'm just not there yet.
being taken, they have to compromise on their own looks by dating down quite some points. And notice how this problem is
I gotta say, I've never been with two girl. I've never gone down to that level.
exacerbated the lower the man's value. The more average he is, the more he has to date down. And the root cause of this is predominantly due to the fact so many women are abstaining from dating. You can see if all women participated, it'd be much more a fair game. A guy here was supposed to get this, but due to mass dating abstinence from women, he now has no choice.
Yeah, it's like this is a factor. There's so many factors that lead to things being lopsided against men in the dating market. Even things as simple as like the meta of female looks maxing being so widespread, like makeup, right? Like the average girl that goes to your nightclub does more looks maxing than an autist on a forum does. We don't think about looks maxing when it applies to women, but like that's what they're doing. They're doing makeup in a very specific way to accentuate certain features, to hide blemishes, and like they have like butt pads to make their ass look bigger and like subtle corsets to put under a dress. They got all of this shit, and men just do absolutely nothing. They just like have a 3-in-1 shampoo, hair conditioner, and toilet drainer that they put in their hair, they scrub up, they put on a shirt, and then they go out to the nightclub, right? So that alone, like the meta of looks maxing for females and males is just not the same at all. So women have that. They have like the availability, the numbers. Like there's so much stuff that makes dating the dating market for women better than men, better quality.
Choice but to settle for this. This is the average guy's only option, given
LMAO, I use that 3-in-1 shower gel. Well, sir, I gotta say, you gotta we gotta change up. We gotta not shampoo and blitz your hair every day. You put in some conditioner and then shampoo maybe every 4 days, and I'll promise you your hair quality is gonna go up.
men at the top
Aesthetics
don't
is 6'2".
experience this
No,
the same
I'm
way.
6 foot.
For the 7s and 8s, these are still able to get a good deal because for the one attractive girl up here who abstains, it doesn't really affect him much. A 7 dating a 6 is hardly the end of the world.
Yeah,
However, because this guy is dating down slightly, it now puts negative pressure on the guys beneath,
yeah.
meaning they need to compromise even more. The 6s and the 5s are in a very precarious position where they must make serious sacrifices in order to compete. That's how much of an impact many women choosing to stay single has on the broader market. Now, lastly, what about the bottom 40% or so of men? Well,
They're in the shadow realm. They are in the shadow realm. They're not even in the game. And that sounds harsh to say, like I'm being like provocative or something, but no, I'm being real. Like if you're like a below average looking guy, it's just there's just nothing going on a dating app. And like, women don't understand that. Like they don't get that. This is something that's very frustrating. The level of being out of touch that most women have to the average or below average male dating experience on a dating
I
app
got
is
rated higher than
annoying.
Paul Walker on ChatGPT.
Good for you, Les.
put simply, these guys are on the sidelines. There is no woman waiting for.
Sidelines. The sidelines implies they're gonna be put on the field. They're not on the sidelines. They're not on the bench. They're in the shadow realm. The only way to get out of the shadow realm is to get to at least a 5, right?
them, especially given this market. What do you think this guy here is going to do? Try to convince one of the beautiful women who wants to stay single to be with him? It's never going to happen. Essentially trapped out of the dating market. They want to get their foot in the door, but can't. You can't really say you're waiting on someone when no one's even matching with you across all dating apps. And again, this existence of sidelined men is supported by data with nearly a third of guys having zero romantic success in the last year.
Ooh. Oh. Young male virginity on the rise. Share of men under age 30 report 0 female sex partners since they turned 18. 27%. Wow. Brutal. You see how like dating apps has just perfectly correlated, like the rise of dating apps is perfectly correlated with male virginity. But again, if you're just like this blue pill normie, you're gonna ascribe this just to young men having a bad personality, whatever that means.
A percentage that has been growing as a greater number of women are choosing to abstain from relationships. And it's hard to say these men haven't been trying. It's just hard to be employed when there are fewer jobs available. And when the number of available workers greatly exceeds the number of available jobs, the unemployment rate increases.
Wheat waffles is explaining something that I've brought up before, which is imagine if like a girl is like an employer, right? And she's hiring for like a boyfriend or friends with benefits, right? And if you think about the amount of likes she gets, they're kind of like job applicants, right? I spoke to a girl, a relatively cute girl, and she was telling me about her experiences after she got Tinder Gold, where she could see the people that liked her profile. She told me she was getting 1,000 likes in a day. Imagine applying to a job where your employer is getting 1,000 job applicants a day. The only way you're getting an interview or getting that job is if you're like the best out of the lot, right? If you're one of the best out of the lot, or you have some unique X factor that, makes you different from all the other job applicants. One of the two. If you're a normie, if you're just an average job applicant out of that 1,000 a day, you're not getting picked. Why would you? Why would you settle with just an average when you're getting that many job applicants? It doesn't make sense.
It's simple supply and demand. These sidelined men are
Crucial
more.
for application cells. Yeah, absolutely. And like, I actually think I'm empathizing with women here. This like community often gets like branded as like woman bad, and I really don't think I'm a woman bad content creator. Actually, I think I'm, trying to get men to put themselves in the shoes of women. Like if you were in this position, you probably wouldn't settle with an average match either, right? Like imagine if you were getting 1,000 women liking your Tinder profile a day. Why would you pick the humdrum dime a dozen women? Like you would match with like the best out of the lot, or some woman that had like some X factor. Like I don't know, like a girl had like some anime body proportions, right? She just had like some insane chest, right? Or she had like some specific phenotype that he liked, like I don't know, like a goth girl or a cute Japanese girl, or something like that, right? But you would never pick just an average girl if you were in that position, right? Why would you? It doesn't really make sense.
More or less shouting into the void as they aren't getting anything back. It's like they can't even submit their resume, let alone reach a job interview. So basically, after all is said and done, we can categorize everyone into three broad tiers: has someone, wanting to stay single, on the sidelines. For the women, they either have someone based on her willingness to put herself out there and chooses the best possible guy, or she chooses to abstain, meaning she's single by.
I really like wheat waffles, so I'm not saying this to be insulting to him, but he has a very dry presentation style. You know, it's this is like if you were going into a business meeting for a supermarket supplier of forklifts, and they were giving you a presentation on why their forklifts are better than the competitors. It would be this kind of style of PowerPoint presentation. He is such a dry YouTuber, but he has such good points. I feel like this is why wheat waffles often gets mocked. It's because it's such a dry and clinical style of presenting this information, and I totally agree with it. Like he's got great points, really like an intelligent guy, but um, you know, he it, this is the thing, the dry presentation I think puts some people off.
By choice. And for the men, he either has someone if he's got the
Wheat has
looks to
a
compete.
touch of the tism. Well, I don't know that. I don't want to say that's the case or not, but if he is, like, I wouldn't say I would be surprised. But I, all we know is that his style of presentation is pretty dry.
Pete, or he doesn't have the looks, meaning he's perpetually on the sidelines. No looks, no matches, no chances. This is what the dating market looks like. And you have to say, it seems pretty rigged against men. The data shows this is what we're dealing with. And even just for a second, if we put the data aside, if you go out into the real world, this is what you will see. And I'm only saying.
Yeah, the numerics of it, the unequal distribution of men and women is such a big deal. Like it's so impactful. It's so impactful because if there's like a 2-to-1 ratio of men to women, that means you need to be like the best out of the two men to be equal to the average woman, right?
Saying this because some of the funniest comments I get on this channel are the ones like, just go outside and look at real world couples, bro, or get off the internet, bro, or even better, my favourite is, just touch
Yeah.
grass, bro. Well,
Well, the thing is, right, with a lot of like couples, you don't really know the inner workings of that relationship. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I mean, I think I think there's a lot of cases of women initiating divorce, at least in the West. It's very popular. Like I don't think it's like half of all marriages end in divorce. I'm not sure if that's. I think that's been debunked. But either way, it's too high than what is comfortable, right? Let's say it's like a third. That's still not good. And then you factor in like what's going on in these relationships. Is there like a dead bedroom? Is the guy, is the woman making like 95% of the purchasing decisions in like the household? Like, is this guy basically just financing this girl in like an elaborate way? Is there like a genuine like attraction and love there? Like, so it's kind of, it's always, it's very short sighted just to look at two people walking together and just assuming everything's good, right? I've been to Bangkok. I've seen these like 60-year-old bald fat guys with girls that are like early 20s from Thailand, and like there's some shenanigans going on to make that relationship possible, for lack of a better term. So, you can't just look at two people walking together and just assume everything's fine. No. Stuff goes on behind the scenes that you aren't privy to just as an outside observer.
If you go outside,
Like, there's so many reported cases of guys that literally say they can't relax without a woman that they're in a relationship with nagging them. Like, it was like a popular thread on Reddit where guys were like talking about how every time they just sit down on the couch, their wife nags them to like take out the trash or do this or XYZ. It's like, I don't want to deal with that shit. Like, that doesn't sound enjoyable.
if you touch grass, I promise this is what you will see. And trust me, I've tried it. You're more than welcome to do it yourself. This isn't a perfect chart.
Can you get to a 5 out of 10 to a 7 by Hardmaxxing? Yeah, in most cases, sure. In most cases, like if you're a 5, you could pinpoint a few facial flaws that you have and strategically correct them. It's totally doable.
Of course, you'll occasionally see exceptions or outliers. But for every one guy that gets lucky and goes against the grain, there are 10 that follow this pattern. Most guys are dating down. This is reality, especially in the mid-range, the 6s and 5s. Now, another interesting part is if we analyze the two genders.
Yeah, things only get equitable when you're a Chad and a Stacy. They pair off together, right? Just because there's not too much upside left, right? You kind of like, how do you date better than Stacy, or how do you date better than Chad? You can't really. So that's only when things get equitable.
I'm better looking than Paul Walker, that's good.
Paul Walker. Oh, him. Oh yeah, the Fast and Furious guy. If you look better than him, good for you, because he's Chad Light. But again, are you going off Chat GPT? The real decider isn't Chat GPT. It's women on dating apps. They'll decide if you're a Chad Light or plus.
We see the men are predominantly selected on their looks. And if he doesn't have the looks, he is sidelined. Whereas women are selected on their eagerness to participate, which again is shown in dating app statistics of match rate. The top 10% of men and women get a lot of matches. No surprises here. And even the middle 50%ers get some, including the men. However, there is a bigger drop-off for the men. But the most interesting part is when we look at the bottom 10%ers. Remarkably, the women still get a sizable amount. In fact, almost as much as the average man.
That looks about 5 times bigger. That's about 5 times bigger of a bar.
But the bottom 10% of guys are getting nothing. Literally nothing. This is what it means to be stuck on the sidelines and shouting into the void. As I said, these men exist and are absolutely swiping, but they are getting no bites, no attention, no nothing. Except maybe the occasional scammer or bot.
Oh man. Oh yeah. That's yeah. It's like, imagine like you get no likes on your Tinder profile, and then you get a like, and it's like, oh shit, and she's kind of cute, and then as soon as you match with her, she starts like talking to her on Telegram, like some obviously like botted message. Oh,
The last thing I want to say is this trend isn't true everywhere, but it is spread wide, especially across the West, and continuing to grow as a culture.
yeah. I think what he's bringing up is a very good point. I think the general participation, just the raw numerical participation of women in the dating market, is less in first world countries like Europe, North America, most notably in Western Europe. But like when you leave, I think female participation is higher. There are some exceptions, like of course India. I brought that up, but yeah,
Of women opting out of dating is growing. How to know if the place you live is affected by it? Well, megacities like Paris, New York tend to be worse because women place a greater emphasis on education and career,
yeah.
which coincides
They want to get married when they're like 60. They want to have kids when they're 60.
with delaying relationships and marriage. But the worst sign the market you live in is rigged and unhealthy is when you see outside every man is dating well below his league. So if you walk around the city or look at the couples seated at a restaurant, if it's consistent that the men are dating down, way down, your market is rigged and you have a terrible chance of meeting someone on your level. And that's because, from the simple law of averages, if all the other men are dating down, this is probably
Mm.
what you'll end up doing too. There is no evidence to suggest you'll be the exception and able to go against the grain to do better than all.
Yeah, you can't account for you being the exception, and especially by definition in large numbers, right? It's yeah, it is that way.
The other competing men. You are just one of them. So, just like them, what would
I
make
don't
you
get many
so special?
matches, but people say I look good.
Well, that's the thing. And again, mini matches, like you have to like compare it to like the average amount of matches that men get on dating apps. Men are never going to get as many matches as women through many reasons, but yeah, you there are choosing signals and ways of figuring out how attractive you are, like the degree to which women simp over you is a big deal. I think that's worth a video. Like how to know when you're a chat. 10 signs to know when you're a chat. I think that's a good video to make.
And different. It's just not going to happen. You, let alone anyone else, will be able to go against the grain and be the exception to the rule. Unless you get very, very lucky. Which exam would you rather take? The one where everyone is telling you, even the smart ones, how they got a low grade and the test was a setup? Or would you rather take the exam where everyone is passing, even the clowns? Quite obviously, you'd pick the easy one. Likewise, if you have the choice to put dating on easy mode, you should absolutely do it. It's a matter of fact,
He's making such good points, but they're so dry. It's such a dry presentation style.
to show you what it's like on the other side of life and how different it is when guys can easily date across. I visited
I want wheat waffles to crash out. I want them to just go mental. That would just make things just way more interesting.
Poland last year, and as I was walking around the city centre, I saw couple after couple after couple after couple where the man was either looks matched to the woman or the woman was actually more beautiful than him. And in my mind, I was thinking, how did this happen? I never see this back home. How did he get her?
Yeah, Eastern Europe is definitely different to Western Europe. Just because it's white people doesn't mean it's the same like culture slash society. It's very different. Um, yeah, it's kind of like the dumbing down of like of identity politics, where we just lump all white people into like one box. But no, there's a lot of differences in white people. Eastern Europeans are a different type to Western Europeans.
How is this even fair? But as I researched
They
and
got a
discovered,
whole different
Eastern
worldview.
European women have more of a desire to date and start relationships young, such as how I highlighted in the data earlier. What it means for the dating market is it's easier for the average guy to meet a girl on his level. Furthermore, combine this with the fact Eastern European women generally put more effort into their beauty and staying in shape, meaning they have higher on average looks compared to Western women. It means the
If you
dating
have to ask if you're Chad, you're not. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you kind of, if you're Chad, you have girls simping for you. You can easily arrange a date or a one night stand at will. That's when you're like at least like Chad light, right?
market is a lot more balanced there, and some guys can even luck out and score a point or two above their level. But compared to the West, the US included, and especially the UK, Believe me, guys, the UK is the absolute worst of the worst.
Oh, God. Man, Tinder in London is it's brutal. It's like the difficulty is so high and the rewards are just not very good. I'm not trying to like be mean or anything, but for a Northern European country, there's not too many good-looking people in UK. And I'm sorry to say that, and I'm British, right? So I'm not having a go, but man, if you go to like Norway and you just look at people there, it's almost weird. It's like how is your face so symmetrical? Why is it so forwardly grown? Why have you got such nice skin? And then you go back to like UK and it's like, oh wow, everyone looks grungy. Everyone looks like ugh. It's just oh man. And I'm British. I'm putting like I'm not having a go. I'm just saying.
These are extremely rigged markets, and this is what you'll be dealing with here. It's just crazy bad in these places and explains why you
Like in UK, like I've seen so many women that look like they're mid 30s and they're like 20. I don't know what's going on. It's like the stress or like something.
struggle so much.
Can you do live face rating for me? Can send pics.
I don't know, man. Maybe okay. Maybe if there was like, maybe I'll do like a section someday of like face rating my subscribers. That might be a fun stream segment, but not today. Thank you for the dono.
Even as an average to above average guy. Anyways, that's all for the content today. Now, quick few announcements. 1. A lot of you will be saying, "Hey, I thought you quit. How come you're back?" Well,
He doesn't want to show his face because some Reddit soyjack guy said some mean things to him in person.
If I'm a 6FT3 white and looks like Paul Walker,
Then you're Chad Light.
I'll be uploading whenever I feel like it. Only when I want to, when I feel I have something relevant to say. There won't be an upload schedule, it will be
Okay.
random. Just whenever I feel like it.
Isn't that what most YouTubers do? I mean, most YouTubers don't have any schedule. It's just this chaotic production cycle.
2. If you want consistent content where I show my face, I upload every 2 weeks over on Patreon. It's a growing community with great inputs from people in the
And he's blowing his face in the thumbnail. This is off topic, but I think this is a mistake. Like I genuinely think Wheat Waffles has made a mistake here by no longer showing his face because it's not like someone can't find his face if they wanted to. That's point A. And point B is like you're kind of just giving ammunition to these soy jacks that want to like want to shit talk us. Like how about like you stand up to them and like talk some shit back, right? I can't. I could never imagine myself ever having some like Reddit soy boy, harass me and my girl when I'm out in public, and for me to just totally revamp my content because of that. It's like, if anything, I would want to double down just to spite this guy and make more videos. I don't I don't empathize with this reaction at all.
comments of each video, and the videos give great advice on what to do as a man given this terribly rigged market. 3. Yes, face ratings are still available. I wouldn't be paying for website hosting fees if I was no longer selling. So they are still available and in good demand. In fact, I will always be selling as long as the website is up. If the website is no longer up, it means I'm not paying for the web hosting fees anymore and it's no longer available. And this is very, very unlikely to happen. 4. My book is also still available in print or the combined ebook and audio version.
Wheat Waffles is a hustler. Look at all these like income streams he has. I'm not even hating. Like, I think this is like cool. Like, this is all really cool. Um, for me, I just don't really have too many ways of monetizing. Like, I've got my, I've got a Patreon which is like $5 a month, and I have my videos which are, have some ads on them, and that's it. But yeah, Wheat Waffles is he's out hustling me.
Rated by me. So, if you want to delve deep into a realistic look of the modern dating market's problems and discover the solution of how to navigate it in the final chapter, then this is available and again will always be available as long as the website is up. Links to everything will be in the description. I may see you in the next video.
Yeah, good video. Yeah, great. This was a good video. Yeah, go subscribe to Wheat Waffles if you haven't already.